Welcome to this special edition of Agenda. Today, my exclusive one-on-one interview with Bassem Youssef, an Egyptian heart surgeon turned TV commentator turned champion of free speech. Inspired by Jon Stewart's news satire program, The Daily Show, on American TV, Youssef, just a few months ago, commanded an audience of millions in his country. Time magazine calls him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Well, he is now off the air. In a country that imprisons journalists for doing their job, Youssef's irreverent tell-it-like-it-is style is a non-starter. And it's even put his life in danger. Well, that is not the case here in Germany. I just spoke to Youssef at Deutsche Welle's Global Media Forum. Listen to what he says about his future, the future of his show, and the future of Egypt.
By the time the revolution was ending on the squares and streets of Cairo, another revolution was starting in the most unlikely location, in the laundry room of the apartment of a young cardiac surgeon. With one desk, one camera, trying to imitate a show he was addicted to for many years. Yes, this young doctor thought that just by commenting on videos, using fast editing, sound effects, over-the-shoulder photos, and even on-location reports, that he could make a political satire show. The show, which was exclusively designed for YouTube, debuted on YouTube on March 8th, 2011, as the first Egyptian independent production on the internet.
In a country where internet penetration was less than 20% and a YouTube video making 50,000 views was considered viral, we began the B+ show. And in less than 2 months, and with only 7 videos, our channel made 5 million views. A figure unprecedented in Egypt. And instead of just staying as an internet phenomenon, we made the next big leap. We made it to TV, and we made a lot of noise as we were at it.
أهلا بكم. وأنا كل شوية بهدد المجلس الأولمبي اللي عندنا. أنا جاي أغير كل حاجة في مجال الرياضة عندنا.
And after just one season, we were one of the most watched shows in Egypt. We were still the most watched on YouTube. Our channel reached more than 200 million hits. Just after 15 months of our first episode online, I was invited on the set of the show I have been long following, The Daily Show. But it was more than just a visit.
Welcome back. My guest tonight, he is a heart surgeon who also hosts a satirical news program in Egypt called Al Barnaamij.
Wow, you've got live audience.
Yes.
So as soon as we returned to Cairo around August 2012, we decided to take it to the next level and aimed at producing Egypt's first ever live show with real live audience. We managed to find a historic piece of art in the heart of Cairo's downtown, Radio Theater, designed by the same architect in New Designed Radio City.
I was in your neck of the woods just a couple of weekends ago, but I'll be back in the summer, so I'm going to come down and see you. Are you guys taping in the summer?
Yes.
I'll come down and see you.
We eventually did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Stewart!
After just the second episode, we became the most watched program in the Arab world, with an estimated viewership of 30 million people per episode. And that is just in Egypt. Yes, we go on every Friday night to take a few punches at the ruling powers.
Bassem saved his best material for former President Mohamed Morsi. Look at what Morsi wore when he received an honorary doctorate in Pakistan. Now look at how Bassem portrayed it on the air. Bassem was accused of damaging Egypt-Pakistan relations. Egyptians across the country laughed themselves silly, but Morsi was not amused by the hat joke. A warrant was issued for Bassem's arrest. He was formally accused of insulting the president and insulting Islam.
On the 30th of June, people took to the streets to overthrow the Muslim Brotherhood's regime, and Bassem was now faced with a new reality, that he should continue with his message of satire, regardless of the circumstances. And after one episode of the program, the show was taken off the air by the broadcasting channel. Former friends became today's enemies.
And so, Bassem Youssef stood up and did his show and made fun of the new regime and their funny hats. And that lasted a day.
In 2013, Bassem was awarded the prestigious CPJ Award handed to him by Jon Stewart.
Bassem found another network that was willing to take the risk. What do you think is going to happen this time? Are you confident that it's going to be on the air?
Show of hands that we are going to continue without stopping. Show of hands, we are going to be pulled off air very soon. Woo!
And soon was too soon. The show only lasted 11 episodes in its last season. And even in its final stretch, the show stayed true to its values. It remained critical of authority and its biased media, no matter how difficult this became. The lawsuits kept pouring in, and the show was even jammed twice during airing. Eventually, insurmountable pressures on the channel and the team forced the show to be finally banned.
واحنا بنعتبر ان وقف البرنامج في حد ذاته رساله اقوى واوضح واعلى بكتير جدا من استمراره ومن اي حاجه كانت هتلاقيها في البرنامج. من الاخر الرساله وصلت.
It seems that satire was too much for some people to handle. It seems that satire is not an easy task after all.
My name is Bassem Youssef, and I'm your host for tonight.
All right, Bassem Youssef. Enjoy it.
This is a great venue. I mean, I was told this was the place for the old parliament in Bonn.
It was.
And then you finish it and then you move to Berlin.
That's right.
You have so much money on your hands.
But you have not talked to our Director General then.
Yeah.
Hey, we gave you a live audience.
Yes. It's always nice to be in a live audience. It's just like, it gives you the full sensation that you're funny.
You've been traveling a lot, haven't you?
Yes.
We were talking last night, you have a little bit of jet lag.
Oh yeah, I'm totally jet lagged. I'm totally beaten. We just came back from Los Angeles and to this nice and very sunny Germany. Totally like different weather than very cold and cloudy Los Angeles. So.
You don't feel a little bit of the LA sun here in Bonn, Germany?
It's everywhere. It's like Orange County everywhere I go. It's like Beverly Hills. No, it's amazing. You have so much green here. It's amazing. It's exactly like Egypt. We have very green. Yes. Yeah.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and pinch yourself when you think about what has happened in just the last 3 years?
A lot. And I do pinch myself, and sometimes I hit myself, and sometimes I abuse myself, because I don't know if that was ever meant to be. But you know what? We're off the air now, and I'm enjoying my days of unemployment. So I actually sleep till noon, so I don't wake up pinching myself anymore. It's much more easier.
I know everyone here wants to know about the future of your show, what's going to happen. We're going to talk about that in a second, but you have come with a message today, haven't
yes,
you?
I was told I have to read from a paper and a speech, so I did that.
And there's no teleprompter.
Yeah, there's no teleprompter,
Okay.
So it's going to be very difficult.
All right. Well,
All right.
the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. It was an incredible journey for me and my team. For us, the show was a bit more than a TV production. It was a human experience. We experienced firsthand the importance of satire in our daily lives. How was this a unique way to express ourselves? Not through violence, not through instigating hate, but through comedy and light-hearted humor. Even if that meant discussing the most daunting and controversial political topics. We used humor, laughter, music, to stand for values of freedom, coexistence, and to face both religious fascism and false patriotism. As we did that, we made sure to have fun and to enjoy ourselves. And that always reflected in our work and our audience. And even those who didn't like our message still made sure to watch us because they still enjoyed the quality of work we were presenting. They would curse us later, but after they have already contributed to our TV ratings, so thank you very much. Egyptians here will relate. I hate Bassem Youssef. Oh, we have to watch the show, yes. We did all of this for the sake of a different media. A media that respected people's minds and intelligence, and in the same time keeping them informed and helping them to combat lies and misinformation that plagued many of the media outlets. As we did that, we never claimed to be freedom fighters or political activists. We believed that it was enough to be the normal everyday people who did not buy into the everyday life of propaganda that is full of lies and deceit. Satire comes from the Greek word sarcasmus, which means to flesh, to rend, to remove someone's skin, to reveal what's underneath. Satire was our weapon to dissect through the lies and rhetoric that were used to control the people. But those who were too annoyed with us and with our message used a different weapon, the most effective weapon of all: fear. Fear sells. Fear intimidates. Fear makes humans go against their best judgment and make them submit to the most basic instinct of all: fear. We saw how those who hid behind religion to manipulate the masses used fear. We saw how the basic human needs to express oneself through logic, laughter, and satire were demonized under the pretense that this was against religion, against God. And thus, we were deemed unholy, obscene, and even a danger to the very fabric of society. We saw how fear was used by those who used the excuse of national security and the false claims of patriotism to instigate hate and mistrust between people and viciously attacked anyone that said anything different, even if it was a joke. And thus, we were also deemed unpatriotic, viewed as traitors, and considered, yet again, as a threat to the very fabric of society. We saw how fear made its way through people's hearts and minds, that even the most ridiculous and illogical claims and conspiracy theories were widely accepted as undeniable facts. Fear sells. Fear works. Fear makes you get away with anything. And when people are afraid, they will not accept logic, let alone satire. Fear can drive the masses. Fear can turn them into ruthless organisms devoid of human mercy and intellectual logic. Fear can drive humans to give up their best ever given trait, humanity. Under fear, they accept taking away their rights to object, to oppose, and even applaud taking away others' people's rights. Under fear, fascism becomes coveted, and human rights becomes an indecent word. Our job was to expose those irrational fears, to dissect through the unfair use of such human basic instinct in order to give up basic human rights and needs. This might sound strange, but again, let me remind you that fear sells, fear delivers. Fear is much, much more stronger. Fear might be the greatest mover of masses ever. You have experienced this during your history. The world has experienced Nazism, fascism, McCarthyism. All were movements that used fear, xenophobia, and empty, vicious rhetoric in order to control the masses. 60 years later, those techniques are still valid. We saw how the most advanced democratic countries used fear to drag the whole world into war, like the Bush years in America. Their main weapon was not a state-of-the-art aircraft carriers or stealth fighters, but good old national scare fear. Fear is the favorite weapon of all. Democratic countries, autocratic countries, religious states, and terrorist groups. It's the favorite brand of all. Fear sells, fear works, fear is a winner. Satire and comedy might be one of the very few antidotes against fear. It liberates your minds, it sets your judgment free. And that is why it is a threat. And that is why people who use satire will be alienated, marginalized, or even scared off. It doesn't matter if it was a government who thinks that they are closer to God than you, or a regime that believes that they are more patriotic than you. You, as a satirist, has no place in the world. It is a world where fascism is celebrated and where fear rules. But satire comes to disrupt such an equation. Because when you laugh, you cannot be afraid anymore. And thus, the system will make sure to eliminate that powerful weapon of laughter in order for fear to set in. But maybe there is a small beacon of hope. Maybe change will come from the most unexpected places. The world today is a young world. Youth are connected now more than ever. The internet and the open skies offers an opportunity that was not there many years ago, when regimes can get away with anything. When we started on the internet 3 years ago, we might be at that time the only one in our country who did that with such a unique idea and format. But now the internet is full of young people coming up every single day to combat fear, intimidation, and media deception. We were too big to be allowed to continue, but by the time we were banned, the change has already happened. Stopping the show might be viewed as a sad ending, but we would like to look at it as a new beginning. We have inspired a whole generation to go out there and express themselves in their own way. The old techniques of the 40s and 50s won't cut it with those youngsters. The propaganda that worked for their parents' generation won't be able to control them anymore. The plethora of fascism that plagues certain regions on the planet right now is only a temporary, a transient moment of time that will be soon washed away by the upcoming generation. Fascism now is overwhelming, that you might think that the long-coveted freedom is stillborn. But that is not true. As Bevan once said, fascism is not a new order of society. It is the future refusing to be born. But I tell you that the future is already here. It is just warming up. So fear might sell. Fear might work. Fear might win, but it will eventually face its defeat. And the battlefield for that glorious victory will be no other than the hearts and minds of vibrant, inspired young people who will not give in to fear. Fear can only take you so far. It is unsustainable. It cannot build nations, it only destroys. And if you think that you might win today using fear, well, think again, because you're mistaken. Because in the books of history, you will lose. And in the hearts of the young, you have already lost. Thank you very much.
Fear is definitely a weapon. I mean, we were talking yesterday. It was one motivation for why you canceled your show.
Yes, it is a great weapon and it works. And but the thing is, you can only direct fear and win with fear that much. You can intimidate a couple of people, many people basically. But it's, as I said, it's unsustainable, and you cannot just win forever. It is not. It's a formula that has failed throughout history. And when you actually look at how we're living now, you think it's permanent, but it's not. It's just going to take its time and it's going to be washed away sooner or later.
You know, you said the propaganda that had worked in our parents' generation would not work today. When we look at where Egypt is today and compare it to 2010, it looks like that propaganda is working very well.
Yeah, temporary. It's more of a generation gap, a generation struggle, and basically because our parents still give us our pocket money. So yes, it works. So it will just take its time. And the thing is, you cannot rule the world of today with the same way you did 40s or 50s, unless you're in North Korea. Which basically works for them pretty much. Hopefully we will not turn into North Korea. We are a very democratic, free election countries that actually works very well. Yes.
A little bit louder there.
Yes.
Did you underestimate the power that your show had? Particularly, I mean, you know, you were threatened with arrest. when President Morsi was in power. But you were showing the numbers, 5 million hits. Did you realize that you were a phenomenon?
Well, the thing is, I'm gonna actually answer this through like a totally professional way of actually someone who has a TV show. If you let yourself think of the effect that you have on people, it will actually interfere with how you actually carry out your show every week, because it can blind your judgment, it can get into your head. So we never thought about, oh, we are very influential, we're so good.
You didn't think that you were a fundamental part of the Arab Spring?
No, because we came after the Arab Spring. I think we and many of others were a manifestation of the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring came first, and then we evolved after it. So we were a result of that. And it was a blessing for many of us who actually took a chance and get our voices out. If you look at the scene now, even the media looks very bad right now, but if you look at the scene on the internet, it's a totally different platform right now. It's as if it's like, wow, this was 20 years ago? No, it was 3 years ago.
What is your responsibility, your culpability in the demise of the Arab Spring?
The demise of oh my God, now I feel very guilty. No, the thing is, putting such a responsibility on a show that came once a week, because people use your argument saying like, you had a big role on overthrowing the Muslim Brotherhood government. I tell them, you know what, if that happens, that means that they were a very weak government. It doesn't mean that we are a very strong program. Because this is TV, this is comedy, and we can only go that far. And you cannot ignore so many other factors and actually put it all on a political satire show that just comes once a week. And I know that a lot of people like to use that as an excuse, but I think they're just projecting their own weaknesses.
Yeah, but I mean, as soon as the latest changes, as soon as they took place, actions came that led to the cancellation of your show. Doesn't that speak to the power?
So maybe the failure of the Arab Spring that led to the demise of my show, not the opposite.
Ah, so it's the other way around.
Yes.
There's been a lot written about you. I want to ask you what you think about this. Someone wrote, you, like a number of Egyptians, went beyond opposing Muslim Brotherhood abuses to supporting an anti-democratic, anti-liberal movement to exclude Islamists from public life and ultimately to replace them.
No, because what happened on the 30th of June was something that was bound to happen after they challenged the whole people. I mean, the Muslim Brotherhood regime was unsustainable, and if they were allowed to continue, we would be sitting here speaking how my show was taken off air or how I faced the regime. It was just like a matter of time. But we never actually supported something that's anti-democratic or supported any fascism, or else I would have actually stopped my show after the Muslim Brotherhood and stayed home. But I came back on air, I stayed on message, and that cost me to have my show jammed twice and removed from air twice. So we were just doing our job, saying what's wrong is wrong. And we continue saying what's wrong is wrong.
Do you believe that, what about the argument that your type of humor, your type of satire, that it may have been too much too early for Egyptian society?
Well, this is the same argument when you say, well, democracy is too much too early for Egyptian society. And whenever people tells me, because I have this argument a lot in Egypt and in the Arab world, it's like, oh, we love you, but you know what, it's not your time. So I tell them, so give me a date, give me a time. When? So it's like, all right, 2019, 2nd of January, when? I mean, give me a time. I'll stay home, I'll go kayaking until I get back, give me 5 years. So, and it's never a good time. It's always not a good time. And this is actually the role of satire. It takes you out of your comfort zone.
Where do you go from here? I mean, you just came back. You just came back from the U.S.
Yes.
Where do you go from here? Does your show have a revival, or What's going to happen?
Well, we have decided that actually continuing with a direct political satire show every week talking about present events might be not the best thing to do right now. And it's like, we basically, and not because out of fear or anything, but because that we think that it is
being
not
realistic.
Yeah. And but we have our projects. We have a company that has managed to disrupt the scene of the media and the internet 3 years ago, and I think we can do it again. We have other projects. There are other venues and other paths that we can take, and there's always a way. There is always a way. Maybe it will take time. Maybe it's better now to kind of ease off. It's too hot right now. And I mean, I'm not talking about the weather, but a little bit hot right now.
But
So
would you consider doing your show outside of Egypt?
I was asked this question so many times. Of course, it's much safer and much easier to do, and we were actually offered so many times to get this show outside. We always tell people, if you take this show outside of the heart of Cairo, you will lose credibility in a second. Because the beauty of this show, that it's... Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The beauty of this show that it aired from the heart of Cairo. You had Egyptian people coming from the streets of Cairo, going through all of the everyday grievances and coming and listening to you. If you take it to London, Dubai, America, you will have people who are just like expats, and they don't relate to you, and you will viewed instantly as a spy, a criminal, a traitor, whatever. And that is not a good thing to have. And I will live and I can still do the show, but I will do this show as a fugitive. And I don't want, I'm not in that stage. Yeah, and I hopefully I will never be.
Yeah, something like an episode of Lost or something.
Yes, Lost.
I have to ask you.
That's
an idea, right?
Yes, yeah.
Let's
get on a plane and just crash it, yes.
There used to be a show here in Germany, and the Germans will remember this. It was called Verstehen Sie Spaß. Do you understand a joke?
It was a comedy show?
It was a comedy show.
In Germany?
Yes.
Nice. Good for you. I am very happy. I hope you enjoyed. Is it still on?
No.
Yes. That is not a surprise. Yes.
But
how to make this car in a funnier way? BMW with a smile. Okay. Yes.
But do you think you helped Egyptians to better understand humor and the way it can actually fit into news and to understanding society?
Well, first of all, the statement of us helping Egyptians to understand humor would be very arrogant of me to say, because it seems I think we're very humorous people and very funny by nature until actually the joke is on you, so everybody is angry. So, but what we have done is actually we introduced a new format for the region, and to incorporate serious news with silly satire, sometimes deeply thought satire, was actually a new format, and people liked it. And I think now, I'll give you an example of how that changed. I mean, we're off the air now, right? So now you go into the internet and people take our own old episodes and they cut our jokes and they put it with the new videos happening today. So, we ended, but the show still lives. The idea still lives, which is great. You have all of these people expressing themselves either through our show or through themselves. So we as a group of people, and a wonderful team, we just put our best effort in order to change the media landscape. Whether or not we help people to, I don't think we help people to find their humor. I think they will find it themselves and then kill it by their own means. Yes.
I'm being told we have to wrap up. Yes or no?
Sorry, we're taking too much time.
We're taking too much time.
Sorry. Yes.
But let me ask you, as the doctor, is laughter the best medicine for bad politics?
Oh yes, it is. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, great phrase, we end our show. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. Give him a round of applause.
And my next guest is another Egyptian who is trying to work in his country's very challenging media environment. He is a photographer, he is a blogger, and his images are world famous. And that has made him this year's Bob's Award winner for the best blog in online activism. Now, the blog documents civil turmoil in Egypt over the last 3 years. And right now, we'd like to take a look at some of Mosaab Elshamy's work.
In his blog, Mosaab Elshamy tells stories, exclusively through photographs. Since the start of Egypt's upheavals in 2011, Elshamy has been documenting developments using only his camera. He shows many sides of the conflict, not just one. His work has been published in international media outlets, but primarily it's the Egyptian public he wants to reach. Elshamy has vowed to continue his work and keep telling stories about all Egyptians.
Yeah, a storyteller indeed. Mosaab is here with me now at the Global Media Forum. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mosaab, on winning. It's good to have you with us. What does it mean being a Bob's Award winner?
Well, it's a great honor, honestly, and I think it's quite a recognition for the work I do, especially at a time like this. I think the timing does really tell a lot, because obviously Egypt is going through a very difficult time, especially for those who are trying to tell what's happening, whether they're journalists or bloggers or activists. It's a very tough time, and it couldn't have become at a more bittersweet occasion.
I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about the political situation in Egypt just a second, but you being able to tell this story is a reflection of how important digital media has become in the Middle East and in Egypt. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do the job you're doing today, would you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a ride really for every digital journalist, you know, whether the citizen journalists or photojournalists or activists online. It's like they have found this outlet, you know, to finally reach out to people and finally put their work out there without all the censorship or without the needs for a publisher. And I think this has boosted a lot of people's career. You know, people who had everything except a place, and all of a sudden they had this atmosphere and this place that gave them the ability to show their work and to interact with others, and even in some cases editors and top journalists.
Are you able to defy censorship in Egypt, in your home country?
I guess it's their work is a bit more difficult now with the internet, obviously, and
I mean, has it changed? Has it changed since the new president came into power?
Well, I don't think they have. I mean, obviously, they're trying to gradually control what sort of content that can be published on social networks and Twitter, and there are all these laws that are currently being in the process of sort of in the making. But there is a strong movement online of bloggers and activists who have done this for 10 years or even more, and they're using all means possible to, you know, put the news out there and try to evade all the new measures.
That's what Bassem Youssef said earlier today when he was giving his talk, that the censorship and the propaganda of past generations, that they're not going to work with this generation.
Absolutely. I think despite the very harsh attempts that are going at the moment, it's just going to be impossible to, you know, censor this generation. They have so much energy and so much tools that they're just not going to give up on. Not to mention that this is a generation that had just gone through a revolution, and it had, you know, affected every single person of them. So it's going to be impossible to shift the time back, despite the very serious attempts to do this in Egypt.
What's your take on the cancellation of Bassem Youssef's show? You know, you said you've watched it. It was a huge force in Egypt, and now it's gone.
Yeah, I think it was very symbolic of you know, the measures that can be taken as for someone like Bassem, who had millions of viewers and a huge international repertoire, and all of a sudden he's not there anymore.
You understand why he canceled the show?
I mean, he did cite personal, concern over his safety and his family, and it's completely understandable.
Do you worry about that for you too, though? I mean, if obviously pictures paint 1,000 words.
I think every person in Egypt who is not following the general and official narrative should be very concerned, and as a photojournalist who's trying to, who's not only facing the risks on the street, being in the middle of clashes and trying to document what is happening, but also when it comes to the personal safety and the threats that are being directed at activists, and at the current state of not accepting other than the official narrative. And this has they have been able to put hundreds of activists and journalists and photographers behind bars,
including your brother.
Yes, thankfully he was finally released, but it was a very difficult time for the family. We went through 10 long months of detention, and Abdullah started his hunger strike in January. And if not for this hunger strike, who knows for how long he would have been there.
Well, let's tell people about your brother, Abdullah. He's an Al Jazeera journalist. He is one of the journalists that we've been reporting on, who has been in prison in Egypt. And he was released, but he's been on a hunger strike.
Yeah, Abdullah began his hunger strike around 5 months ago in January. Because of his detention, he had no official charges against him, and there was no prosecution, interrogation, there was no trials, so he was just there, and having his detention sort of automatically renewed. And after 6 months of this, he finally decided to go on this hunger strike, and he had lost approximately half of his weight, and has had serious concerns and an international outcry that sort of helped him. But unfortunately, he's still got a very long route to recover.
I mean, how's he doing? Have you talked to him since he was released?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I was able to see him before coming here for the ceremony, and it is a massive boost for the family to have him finally there after almost a year of being behind bars. It's a very difficult experience for the whole family, not just for him. But it was very unfortunate that just a few days later, his colleagues at Al Jazeera English were sentenced to 7 years. And it's
we talked about that earlier in the show. Yeah, journalism obviously runs in your family.
Yeah.
Is there a promising future in Egypt for journalists?
I think there is, because of how sort of easy it has become for people interested in practicing journalism, whether it's photojournalism, whether it's writing, whether it's reporting, and the wave of citizen journalism that began during the revolution of the 18 days, and it's even later made the revolution become known as the internet or Facebook revolution. There was a huge potential for people who want to practice this journalism in a non-traditional way, and I think it was able to give a lot of people this opportunity that I mentioned, including myself. I don't think if the revolution hadn't happened, I probably would have still been a pharmacy student.
Right, I mean, so you're one of those big changes that came through.
Yes, absolutely it was, and it had a massive personal effect on people, including me and thousands of youth.
Is the Arab Spring over? Is there a positive postscript that we can talk about?
Well, for the time being, it looks well defeated. Whether it's over or not is that's yet to be told. But it's a very gloomy and dark period, not just in Egypt, but across the Arab world. And despite the frustration that has hit many youth who 3 years ago were living the euphoria of the revolution, it looks like it's going to take a very long time, and it's going to be a much tougher process than expected. But I think there is still massive determination within the youth, and the human rights camp in Egypt is still pretty much alive, even though it is facing a very rough time.
Where's this positive outlook coming from, though? I mean, a lot of people argue that Egypt today is basically where it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're right, because what's going on in Egypt is nothing less than terribly concerning. I think is
so how can you be positive then about
the positivity? I would say
and
comes from the presence of these youth who, despite all of this, I mean, it depends on how you really want to see it, but by interacting with many youth who until today are hopeful that one day they will be able to turn the tide around, and they really do have a point, because also 3 years ago it was extremely depressing and gloomy as an Egyptian, and within 18 days history was made. So I wouldn't completely count on things being done and dusted, but it is very difficult. I will admit that.
Is there any particular photograph, any project that you're proudest of?
Well, I'm mostly proud with the pictures I made during the post-revolution months, during the in Tahrir Square. Most of the pictures that I did while chasing my own personal projects. I am particularly fond of a couple of pictures that were taken during clashes near Tahrir Square, most especially a few that symbolized for me what the revolution were. One of them was a picture of fireworks exploding near the Ministry of Interior during clashes, and it did show this brief moment of you know the beautiful mess, as they say, of the revolution. Another one. There is also some lesser positive ones, but have also been very significant because I've had to hold these stories along with me, and through these pictures I was able to know the people in them, and we later even made these bonds. So it is, it does really stay with you as a photographer, and it does affect you for a very long time, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, congratulations again on winning this award. Good luck to you in the future. Good luck to your brother as well.
Very much.
Thanks for stopping in to talk with us.
Thank you.
Today. It's good having you on the show with us. That is going to wrap up this edition of Agenda from the Global Media Forum here at the World Congress Center here in Bonn, Germany. Remember, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think about the show. You can email me, you can write to me on Facebook, or you can send a tweet to me. You can write to me there at Brent Goff TV. And don't forget, you can watch the show again on YouTube. I'm Brent Goff. Join me next time when I set the agenda.